If like me, you've never tried this delicious buttery and sweet, spongy and crumbly cornbread, you've been missing out. Hi everybody and welcome to my kitchen. It's me, Manny from Manny's Made at Home. And in my channel, I love to share with you simple or sometimes over the top but totally delicious recipes to share with all your friends and family. For the month of June, we're celebrating soul food cuisine. This is a cuisine that I haven't had any exposure to before, but after doing a bit of research and looking at how amazing all of the dishes look, I just had to try it. Join me as I try all of these beautiful dishes for the first time. We're gonna make a delicious meal made up of loads of different dishes. To make sure you don't miss out on any of them, make sure that you're subscribed. To begin, we're gonna be making a delicious cornbread. Let's look at the ingredients that we're going to need. Okie dokie, first things first. I'm going to preheat my oven to 200 degrees, and while it's preheating, I'm going to put my cast iron pan in there for it to also come to that temperature. This is going to help when we put our batter into it to start getting that delicious crust around the side of the bread. Okay, the rest of the recipe is super simple. We're going to start with getting our dry ingredients. So I've got some flour, which I'm going to put into my bowl, and I also have my cornmeal. Now, I find it very difficult to find cornmeal over here in Ireland, so what I was able to find is cornmeal grits and polenta. So what I've done is I've decided to do half and half, so that's what's going instead of my cornmeal. It could be that it's just a difference in language, maybe the two things are equivalent, but this is what I got, that's what I'm going to use. And I'm going to start it off by giving it a bit of a whisk, just to make sure that my flour and my cornmeal is evenly distributed. Then we're gonna go in with our raising agents. Most of the recipes that I saw use only baking powder, but because we're gonna be using buttermilk, and I know from previous baking experience that buttermilk reacts a lot with baking soda. So I'm actually gonna do a bit of both. It's important that the raising agents are distributed evenly because you wanna make sure that you get an even rise to your bread. Next, for what I believe is going to be a controversial ingredient, I've got some sugar. There seems to be a big debate, and I love this about different cultures when it comes to food, whether you put in sugar or you don't put in sugar into your cornbread. I decided to go with it because in my mind I always imagine cornbread to be a little bit on the sweeter side, so I'm gonna add it in. But don't come for me in the comments if you don't put it in, and do let me know whether you do or you don't. This whole debate reminds me a lot of my own heritage in Spain, whether you put onions or you don't put onions into your Spanish omelette. If you want to know how to make a Spanish omelette, click the card up here. If you don't put onions, you're wrong. Mixing in my brown sugar here as well because it can be quite lumpy, so by mixing it with the rest of the dry ingredients, it's going to break up nicely. Okay, then we can start going in with our wet ingredients. I have some buttermilk here. I'm going to make a bit of a well in the center and just throw it in there. And I'm going to move now to a wooden spoon and mix everything together. Okay, now I'm gonna go in with my eggs and I'm gonna add them in one at a time, making sure I incorporate them properly after each addition. And then finally I'm gonna go in with some melted butter. Now I'm using Irish butter because I have an unhealthy obsession with Irish dairy, but if you wanted to use unsalted butter, you would add a little bit of salt into your batter as well. And you must use butter or lard here because that will give it delicious butteriness or fattiness to the bread, which is what you want. Okay, everything's nicely combined now, so let's go and put it into our preheated pan. Okay, let me get my cast iron pan out of the oven. What we want to do here is go in with a little bit of oil and also some butter at the bottom. You see that heat is melting the butter already. This is just so that our bread won't stick, and it will just give you a bit more of that delicious buttery flavor. Okay, and then we can go in with our batter. I'm gonna try to even it out a little bit because my batter is a little bit on the thicker side. Possibly these grits soak up more liquid than cornmeal. Okay, and into the oven we go at 200 degrees for 20 minutes or until a toothpick comes out clean from the center. I'm excited. Okay, it's time, let's have a look. We do have to talk about the bacon, but first let's just see what it's looking like. Okay, it's nicely cooked, it's beautifully brown and crisp on top, but it is a little bit deformed, and I'll tell you why. When I was looking at the different recipes, what I like to do is to look at a good few and then kind of mix them together and make my own. What I didn't take into account is the pan size and the baking temperature. As you saw, my batter was so thick and so deep in the pan when it went in, the temperature that I had was probably too high. If I were to bake this again, I would do it at around 180 degrees, and that would be closer to the baking time that most recipes say. Mine was baking for about 30 to 35 minutes because it needed that extra bit longer. Having said all of that, I think it looks quite pretty. We need to do something else to now just to bring it a bit over the top. What I have here is some softened butter, and I also have some honey. So I'm just gonna mix that together and make some delicious honey butter. The ratios are completely up to your own taste. Okay, and once it's nice and mixed in, you're just gonna put it on top of your bread. Because it's still hot, it's gonna melt and make the top super, super moist and just absolutely delicious. Okay, and that's it. We'll wait a couple of minutes for it to cool down a little bit, and then we can cut out a slice. All right, we've waited long enough. You've no idea how good this smells already in the kitchen. I cannot wait to try it. That's it. It is so thick, but it looks unreal. It's still steaming and it smells so gorgeous. Let me give it a try. Still quite hot, but oh wow, it is actually so good. That buttery sweetness, for me, I think it's 100% needed. It makes the bread so rich and so delicious. It's perfectly baked as well. It's a nice kind of spongy texture. Because we use the cornmeal grits, there is a bit of a grittier texture to it, which personally I don't find unpleasant at all. But I might play around with the proportion of polenta to grits next time to maybe help a little bit with that. But I think first attempt, a great success. I'm implementing the little tips I gave you regarding the cooking times. You'll have fantastic results. This is so good. Right. We've got one recipe down and I'm already obsessed. I cannot wait to show you what else I've got coming up for this delicious soul food meal. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you give me a big like and leave me a comment below with your thoughts. I want to hear from you in particular if this is the type of food that you grew up eating. If you know and love these recipes, please give me your suggestions. How can I improve it? How can I make it better? Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you want to see the upcoming recipes in this delicious soul food series. If you tried this recipe and you want to show me on Instagram how you get on, make sure that you tag me. I love to see it. With that, I'll leave you for this video and enjoy.